but that's gonna be from
Okay,
them.
right, okay,
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
I can do the police ad hoc committee, but.
which you've already done.
Can I just ask
Five,
one question, yeah. What does this do to our outreach? If we're all appalled at the numbers for the
It's
size
gonna
of
go
the-
away if we have one building. If you have one building,
That's assuming that they come.
this is just the law of the
Yeah,
law
but
of
they're
geometry.
gonna
is-
come back with 3 different options for us.
But if,
But-
it's the law, it's like the pizza sign. If we have one building and you make that on a 2.5 acre site or whatever, Rose can back me up on this, and you're gonna add or take out 10,000 feet, it won't make any difference.
so,
You won't see it.
but I want to respond to that. I think the neighborhood outreach
Not-
meetings are
just-
supposed to be similar to what our public outreach meeting format was.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be presenting options 1, 2, and 3 at these
Are
neighborhood
they? We don't
meetings.
know. Are they going to be presenting
That was
four-story
my-
buildings?
They're gonna.
No, they're not.
Oh, they're.
Well,
They're gonna tell us today what they're
As
doing.
long as we won't.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Gordon?
I believe, based on what I understand that they described to me, this meeting of the CCAC and the next meeting are to refine the 1
Oh, I
to
see.
3 alternatives they would take out
Ah,
to the public.
Oh.
What they presented before, I think that Rick described, the fanciful, what do you like, what do you not like, that was an exercise to get people engaged and get some general ideas. What this committee did at the last meeting, which I thought was, Steve brought up a number of issues, as did the rest of the people here, saying, we don't like this, we like that, move this, move the train station. They've taken that information, I haven't seen the results, but that's what they're gonna bring today, because their output after the next meeting
Mhm.
should be, this is kind of a draft master plan we wanna take out to the community. But I think,
Oh.
With
as
options.
Steve said, the difference between, a box that is, 100 feet by 140 feet and one that's 120 by 160 isn't gonna be significant. So if there was 5,000 square feet
Yeah, I was
plus
just
or
doing the
minus,
math.
it's not gonna
Yeah, but-
It's the
show up.
difference
as-
between 100 by 100, if a 2-story building, it's between 100 by 100 versus 135 by 135. On this site plan, you will never notice it at this level.
But wait, but I think what they're gonna be doing, that they're still gonna be in information gathering mode when we do this outreach to the residents. It's out of that they're gonna come together with much more solid options that I would call the draft option alternatives. And those they will take to the next larger workshop that we would have in the pavilion. So I think these outreach meetings are kind of between the workshop we had here and the next workshop too,
And the next public workshop.
and the next public
Right,
workshop.
okay.
So they're gonna be ready with 3 alternatives that will be refined before the second public workshop, because,
That's
Right.
right.
according to their
By-
schedule,
by
they started
December.
working on 3 alternatives on September 25th.
Here's the-
That's
So
right,
we'll
that's
be
the outreach.
refining those through the public outreach
September
meetings.
25th, that's right. After the last workshop, that's right.
So they'll have more ideas and refine those 3 options through the neighborhood meetings in order to prepare for the public workshop number 2 in December.
Right. And if I may, what they'll be bringing to the neighborhood meetings are, options that are, let's say, more, instead of fanciful, they're more realistic.
Right.
But you're absolutely right, Rick, that they will be taking those options and further refining them down to probably 1 to bring to the second workshop.
Okay, all right.
I had one other question,
Yes.
just for a frame of reference, does anybody have the disparity between, or among the 3 numbers between, or among the blue ribbon, the NMNR, and the
Task force.
The blue ribbon was,
square footage numbers?
the CCAC, we dropped it 10%, thinking we're just gonna find a way to save 10 from blue ribbon. We did all kinds of work, and at the end, that's kind of what we did. And just to say, we'll find a way to
Reduce
eliminate redundancies and share counters and have people share conference rooms, and we'll go to more cubes and less private offices. And we worked through it, and that's kind of what we came out. And then NMR said, yeah, we can make that if we had to. That's
But
my
they would reduce it
recollection.
even more.
We'll see, we don't know yet. It's architecture, right?
Yeah.
It'll come down to the shape of the building
I really
and the
think that
reveals
it
and everything
has to
else.
be what, is gonna really work.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers we came up with.
I was just curious.
It's
'cause
all
that-
documented,
Yeah,
Right.
so we can go back and find
We
it.
Yeah.
should be able to.
We should know, we should have that data.
In
I
fact,
have a number in this table right here. It says, 5,100 feet
That's
Where?
from what?
For,
for a police department.
From which
I think
which
that's
report?
That blue
Yeah.
ribbon?
that's the existing, including those buildings in the back, I'm
Well,
pretty sure.
the first
Back
draft,
the
first
dodgy
existing
buildings
program.
behind
Oh,
it.
that makes sense.
There it is, NMR, right there.
Oh,
March,
Yeah.
Not 2012. That was the last one.
What was the number, Phil?
5,108.
That's current. That's the current, that's what they have today.
Here's the next one. It went up to, same thing, 5,108.
Oh, plus staff year circulation, plus 30%.
So there you go. There's some of the numbers right here.
Well, I think that we need them to do that, to say this is what the square footage was in each one of these reports, this is what it is right now, and this is what we're proposing, and this is why.
And then we could also say, that for instance, in the Blue Ribbon Task Force, based on what Ed Flint said,
Hi.
what did we forget?
Mhm.
What were the things that we didn't put in there that legally we have to put in? And that would be another basis when you added that amount to give you some form of reference.
I agree with
Chief,
that.
you had something to say?
Yeah, just looking at the facility over there, I'll just take one aspect of it and try to illustrate how the consultants may have got to where they got. Let's just take the largest room over there, which is that multi-purpose room, for those of you that have toured that. That is a training room. It dubs as a briefing room. It is the lunch room. It is the men's locker room. It is a quasi-women's locker room, and it has one restroom. So if all of those were to be broken out,
Mhm.
that room's definitely doubling.
No, that was all, we went through all that.
You
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we totally did, yeah. But I think a peer review just answers the problem.
Mhm.
Sure.
Because if they've been built in the last 10, 15 years, or unless they say no, it's the last 5 years because everything changed, that's what we were
More
talking
legal
about.
requirements or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, just do a peer review, you know, if you get enough in the sample, it'll all be very clear and it won't be subjective and it won't be cherry picking and it won't be, we're somehow different. It's very simple. That's my advice.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, in the essence of time, we've got 10 more minutes. Can we move item number 6 above item number 5 and just do the ad hoc committee reports real quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. Master plan ad hoc committee recommendations? Some master plan.
I think that one's kind of.
No, there's
Yeah,
Okay.
we're kind of finished on
Okay,
that.
we did that one.
Yeah.
The
We're
library,
in place in case
Yeah.
we need it again.
right. Okay. Oh, yeah, we should kind of get rid of that one. Well,
Yeah, we
Just in case you need it.
okay, because that was the first one.
It's basically a process. If we need to come back with a recommendation on process.
So
we
library,
exist.
library, you want to
Okay.
do the vice chair?
The library has completed its targeted task of the square footage recommendation, which is contained in the updated needs assessment called Defining Atherton's Library that was sent to everybody on the committee. And it concludes that the space recommendations are 7,307 feet. That does not include a multi-purpose room for library programming. If that were to be included, it'd be about 8,900 feet. And the specific breakdowns of those needs is on another document called Projected Space Needs, all of which has been sent to.
But you know, that's much smaller than we came up with. The number we came up with was it's all at 8531.
I think we came up with the 8,957.
8957,
Yeah, and that includes the multi-purpose. So you weren't at that last meeting. At the last meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion about that, and there was concern at the size, and what we decided to do was to make the multi-purpose room optional, so that if the town decides that we want to build the multi-purpose room as part of the library, using the JPA funds, that we'd end up with 8,957, like we had recommended at that last meeting you were at. But that we would make that optional, and we could decide. Without that, it would be
That was
7,307.
a gross number, 73.
It is a gross number.
Okay, so that means the
It's-
actual number would be, what
Uh,
would be
No, it's a
20%?
sorry.
It's 664 feet
You know, I think
less.
that's way too small. After touring Portola Valley, I mean, you and I, we both went to Portola Valley, which is about 6,500 square feet. Way too small. I just think it's way too, I think we're missing a huge opportunity if we make this thing net roughly 65 hundred square feet. I think that's,
So,
ever being in Portola Valley, all the staff there say this place is way too small.
Mhm.
so the difference between net and gross, the net is like the inside dimensions.
I know.
Yeah,
The
you know,
overall
we-
gross is the entire footprint
I know.
of the building, including the walls and the roof lines and things
But-
like that.
The gross also includes server room
That's right.
and storage.
I think it's way too small.
I think one of the issues that I had with this plan is that the children's library, we've talked so often about how the children's library is the most important part, how they're the main users, and yet the children's library portion is very small. There's no dedicated washrooms.
There's not a dedicated washroom. There is dedicated seating and dedicated collection space.
We talked about individual bathrooms in the children's area.
Because they're smaller.
Well,
They-
because
We-
it's
we
small
did,
and also
but-
from a safety
Well,
view.
to be honest, the only place we saw that example was in the River City Library, where the children had individual bathrooms, and that was a 40,000 square foot library.
Ah,
That's
I
the
just
only
think-
example where we saw a dedicated children's restroom facility.
I think we're making a big mistake, big mistake.
We hit one more,
I don't know.
Mason City, Iowa.
Yeah, in Mason City, Iowa, they had dedicated children's bathrooms. Well,
Bridge has been in the movie.
I mean, it doesn't have to be enormous. It can be,
Two little bathrooms.
just one, don't you
Well,
think?
Yeah,
So-
it could be one.
Yeah, it could be just one, but, for the smaller rooms.
One of the problems is we haven't had everybody at a meeting, so at the
Right.
last meeting, the initial recommendation from the consultant was a larger facility than this. Not a lot larger, but larger.
Much.
It was like 9,500 square feet. And it got scaled back by reducing a couple things.
I mean, at the last meeting, I think we got, Dee Dee Fisher was basically saying, this is way too big, everything's too big. I think we're going to be careful.
But we principally addressed that by making the multi-purpose room optional.
Can I ask a question? I think we started talking about this last time, and then I think what we reminded ourselves is, we don't have to decide this yet.
Right.
Because
No.
on the site, all we're doing is
Right.
master plan, and on the site plan, this won't make any difference.
Good.
You won't even notice it.
That's a really good point.
And, but when we
because-
come to space planning, then these become everything. These
Mhm.
become the whole
We
conversation.
were asked to come up with the
Square foot.
numbers.
Yeah, but you can
You can do
bound
a
it.
range.
You can
Right.
say
You
it's
could do a
7,000 or
range.
10,000 feet.
Yeah.
It won't make any difference on the space.
And it
on the
doesn't
site
have to be
plan.
a locked-in
I'm
number.
happy to do that, but I'm just telling you right now, I think the number we come up with, 7,300, is just way too small. And I think we're going to regret it if we do that. We don't need the money, we've got the money for a bigger number if we want. And this is a one-time opportunity to build a really nice library. And I think if we screw it
Well,
up,
it wouldn't be,
I'm sorry for a long.
it wouldn't be a horrible idea to reserve the space, the larger space that the consultant has recommended to us.
So
Without committing
they
to
will,
it.
so right now, the proposal that we have is somewhat pared down from what he had given us. And it's 7,300 feet without the multipurpose room and 8,900 feet with it. And we had talked about possibly doing a range, right?
Okay,
I mean, we could do a range that said 7,300 to 8,000 feet without the multipurpose room and 8,900 feet to 9,500 with the multipurpose room.
I personally.
And that would that address your concerns?
Not really. My concern is, look, the multi-purpose room can be paid for by the library.
That's correct.
And therefore, I think that we should take advantage of that and say, why should Atherton pay for the multi-purpose room when the library is willing to?
But this is preserving that option, Jim. I think that the reason that we made the multipurpose room optional is more for marketing and perception. I mean, people can decide, do we want the library to pay for it, and the library has the money to pay for it, or do we not want the library to pay for it? Then we have to decide if we want the residents to pay for it from the private donations, or we don't build it.
Why would the residents pay for it?
I understand.
Actually, okay, let's circle back here. I think that what the ad hoc committee has done a really good job of researching all of this. I think that you guys deserve a round of applause for this and for getting the needs assessment updated. We are not designing specific square footages right now or the interiors of this library. This is a good framework to start with and for the consultants to use as kind of a benchmark size to then integrate within the master plan scenario. Is that fair?
I would like us to come up, when we were requested to come up with a number, I would like to, instead of a number, to come up with a range as been suggested from, say, 8,000 to 10,000 square feet. That would be, make our commitment.
Okay, how does the other
Well,
committee members feel about that?
Can I just add one comment to that?
Mhm.
That one of the things that we've asked the consultants to do is to price
Mhm.
the cost of the improvements to the
Mhm.
site and the facilities that we're going to be constructing.
Mhm.
So if you give them a range, we're going to kind of say, just to pick a number, it's going to be $14 to $17 million. People are going to remember $14 million.
Mhm.
They're not going to remember $17 million. Well, we told you it might be that. They're never going to remember that.
Mhm.
I think we should, if we're going to be picking numbers, we should pick numbers that are at the higher end and price that out, and then we can always scale back later
I
on.
agree.
Oh, you don't want to spend 17 million? Well, we think we can get it down to
I
15.
agree.
So,
I would
anyone
go
else
with
have
the
a
89,
comment?
70 or whatever.
Or, Paul, do you have an opinion about that?
No, I mean, I like, the fact that we can maybe put in a range, I think that helps. But I also agree that, we might be putting the cart before the horse here, that we don't really need to come up with square footage right now when we're addressing the public outreach meetings. I agree with Steve in that, let's get things cited
Mhm.
and kind of look at the square footage things down the road.
To refine them. I mean, I think that we've got a good basis for it, and the ad hoc committee has done a really good job of figuring all of that out. And, Rose, do you have something to say?
No, I think that the 1,500 square foot multipurpose room is sort of that thing out there that's going to trigger the square footage, so I think putting a range is fine, as long as we know that the 1,500 square foot is the optional space. And
Mhm.
I think we're all talking on the, I think we're all on the same page on that. I don't know what,
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
yeah.
So, Phil?
But a year ago, there was an election, it was a pretty hot one about the library. Someplace in these public outreach meetings, somebody said, how big is that damn library? They're gonna wanna know that. Because it was a hot issue a year ago, and they're gonna wanna know it again. How big is the library? It's too big, too little, whatever.
Mhm.
They're gonna wanna know, this is the size we think it ought to be, from 7,500 to 8,500 square feet, or 7,900 to
10,000 square feet or something, yeah.
That's the range. That's right. You can probably never go up, and you start with a lower number, but that's the right range. Remember, they're gonna think that it was 13,500 the last time.
Right.
Yeah, way too big. Okay, Steve, then Rose.
Just from a space planning
Mhm.
perspective, the direction we gave our consultants last time is that please put it with its back to the park. And so we're kind of rearranging, we're arguing over something that's irrelevant,
Okay,
because it's not important, because they can make it bigger.
right. So, Rose?
Just a little,
Yes.
Phil triggered something in my thoughts. I was at the Lindenwood Homeowners Association during my stint there. And Rick, I remember that one couple cornered me and you had to talk to them at length about the library. And the question was, why do we even need a new library? So we're going to be coming up with that argument too. Never mind the difference between this square footage and that square footage. It's like, why do we even need it? They were pretty vehement about it. And I think that you had to talk to them for about 15 minutes, as I kind of slithered away, because that was your deal. But, I don't think that's going to be an isolated incident. So,
I've had that conversation with many people.
yeah, so that's.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad conversation to have.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that sort of,
Okay,
Well-
so it's 4 o'clock and our consultants are here, so let's close.
Can I make a proposal?
Yes.
Why don't we reserve the space as suggested in the consultant's report, when
The consultants or the ad hoc committee's report?
the consultant's is bigger, right?
No.
No.
89,
I-
70 was.
I would propose we create a range
I think a
from
range
the
is
low
good.
end that they had to 10% above the high end.
Great.
That would be
I second that.
7,300 to 9,650.
I completely.
I second your motion.
That's right.
There you go.
Nice job. Okay, so
That's what consensus
let's,
is about.
yeah, let's make sure we write that down.
I've got it, 7,300 to 9,650.
Right.
I second this.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so we've got the ad hoc, library ad hoc recommendations. So, our consultants have arrived, and you're kind of in the middle of, we started our meeting a little earlier, and so we're going through our ad hoc committee reports. We've got just a couple more. Would you mind if we continue on, and then we'll circle back for your agenda item? Okay. So the next one is the outreach ad hoc committee recommendations.
We haven't really met.
Well, but we've done a lot. We started the ball rolling, and we got a lot of information out. We had, I think, a very successful September 17th
Right.
public outreach meeting because of our little flyer that went out that we designed. We have been very active in putting together the neighborhood outreach meetings that everyone had decided that we needed. There are 5 of them. As a point of clarification, well, what the committee had decided to do was try to have 5 neighborhood meetings located strategically throughout the town of Atherton geographically, so that each neighborhood block would have an opportunity to come to their quote-unquote neighborhood. And so our first neighborhood outreach meeting is going to be in the Patricia Drive residence of one of our members, and it will encompass the Selby Lane, Stockbridge, Ralston, Amador, Tuscaloosa, everything from El Camino to Alameda de los Pogas, from Atherton Avenue to Selby Lane, that neighborhood block. The second neighborhood meeting is October 29th at my residence, and that will be in the Sacred Heart Circus Club, Victoria Manor neighborhood, and it goes on from there. The third outreach meeting was going to be scheduled with Dee Dee, but she lives in the Patricia Drive residence, and so we have a neighbor over here over on Mount Vernon to do the town center neighborhood, the Lloyden Park neighborhood, the Walnut, Ashfield, Maple, McCormick, Fair Oaks neighborhood. So that general neighborhood in their residence, Watkins, and so that,
And we already sent out postcards.
and we've sent out postcards.
Yeah, good
Yes.
Is that Jerry's?
Yes, it's next door to Jerry's house. And then the fourth neighborhood meeting is November 3rd up in the Walsh Road area. Steve Noshheim is hosting it, and that will be from Alameda all the way to 280, from Woodside Road to Walsh, yeah. All the hills,
All the hills
above the hills. And then on November 5th, a neighborhood outreach meeting with Joanne Sokolov, residents in Lindenwood. We actually have 2 Lindenwood events. With the other one is with Chris Kelly on November 8th, but that was outside of the time frame that the consultants could meet. So that would be facilitated by
Us.
Us.
So we're recommending that we do a 6th meeting, but the consultants not participate. By that time, enough of us will have been at enough of the meetings that we can manage it. And
But we felt
we
that
thought it
Lindenwood,
warranted 2 meetings.
right,
How are you
Right.
gonna check where people are going so we don't have quorum?
No, so that, I wanted to, notwithstanding the fact that we're sending the postcards like this to each neighborhood, people from the town are invited to
Any
every
and all.
one of the meetings. So there is a flyer
No, I just
that
meant doing
Teresa
that form
did
without
like this
group.
that has all of the meetings on it. And, I mean, you're not restricted to go to a meeting that's in your neighborhood, you can go to any
So,
of them.
to answer your question about the Brown Act and a quorum, and if a number of our committee members or a number of council members show up at any of these, it's understood that we understand as elected officials and committee members that we can be in the same room with more than 2 or 3 being gathered together, as long as we don't participate in the process. For instance, there were a couple people at the September 17th meeting, and they were just observing. You can have more than, a quorum present, as long as you don't participate.
Or attempt to influence the.
So how are we staffing or participating in these neighborhood meetings?
Good question, good question. But,
Just two points.
following up on that,
Following up on that one as well. One is to address the quorum issue. It's, even though you can be in the same room, for appearance perspectives, it's advised that you maybe not be. And because the second reason is, if it is ends up being a publicly noticed meeting because there's a quorum of the body present and participating, then we've also got our meet requirements for ADA and noticing at the particular residence, and that causes a particular concern. We've already had a member of the public contact the town and say, hey, I might attend, what is the ADA accessibility of a particular residence? So because these are non-quorum meetings, even though they're public and the public's invited, they're not required to be ADA accessible, but that doesn't
yeah, and you
prevent
just
that
don't
from
want
occurring.
to, gather together, in clusters.
Right, and staff, between Gordon and I and any other member of the staff that wants to volunteer to go, one of us will be present at the weeknight meetings. The weekend meetings, we'd encourage members of the committee to be in attendance.
There is one weekend meeting
Yeah.
up in the Walsh Road area, and it's earlier from 3 to 5, because we felt that for darkness, going up Walsh Road. So, Paul, to address your question, how can this committee help with these public outreach meetings? We're very grateful to our residents to open their homes to have them, but we've indicated that we will provide beverages and maybe a little tray of snacks or something, so that they don't have to prepare anything. And as far as setting up, I don't know, the consultants will have to tell us how much setup we'll actually need, like tables and things.
Are they bringing chairs, staff gonna bring chairs? We'd asked last week if staff might be, I don't know if it was an email trail or if it was here.
I don't think we need so much chairs, because we'll ask the consultants, I guess.
But what we'd asked is if they bring 20 or 30 chairs on a cart that move to the next house the next night. And if you need them, you use them, and if you don't, they stand the cart at the front door.
Yeah, we could certainly do something like that. I think Steve Tyler had already been in the loop on that.
We need
It's
any,
just in case.
does our liability insurance cover these meetings?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Do we need a motion to approve the 6th meeting without the consultants? Because it's committee decision to have the 5.
Yes.
I want to make sure that the meeting, and we had engaged the Kellys to participate, and then we found out that the consultants couldn't be there on the 8th. So we decided to keep them, and I want to be very respectful to them. So I want to make sure it's a formal meeting.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion that the 6th meeting be continued, be included as one of the resident outreach meetings that the committee is targeting. It's that at that meeting, it won't be with the consultants, because we don't want to incur additional costs.
Can we hear a second?
Second.
Phil Lively will do the second. All in favor? Okay. Opposed? Okay, so we will reconfirm with
Great.
the Kellys on that. Okay, so, police department, you've already done it.
We're waiting for direction.
Wait, you wanted to say that, didn't you?
We
Okay.
recommend that we do a survey and waiting for direction.
Okay,
Yes.
very good,
And
okay,
we'll take more members if we have to call out the.
okay.
Who is on the committee now?
Just being-
It's just, yeah, so we may expand that or whatever. So, okay, so we'll invite our consultants. Thank you so much for being patient with us. as we did a lot of these little housekeeping items here. And item number 5 on the agenda is HMC's recommendations. They're going to confirm final outreach meeting dates and times and the
I think
typical
we can probably
agenda.
be here, we're gonna pass around some handouts for you guys to look off on while we're talking.
Good. Okay.
I've been through everything.
I'm starting to close up.
Okay.
So you're number 5.
Yes, so while Matthew's passing around the materials we want to review, I'm gonna start with item A. So I know you've got all the dates and times confirmed, we'll need directions to all the addresses.
Thank you for your patience in helping us pull all of this
Sorry it
together.
was so confusing.
Well, you know, it's,
But I'm glad you guys have gotten it worked out, so
it's been
we're
great.
excited to do the meetings. I'm hoping that we'll get a good turnout.
It'll be lovely.
I think we will. I've been talking to people. I think people are pretty excited and everybody's good. These postcards, whoever did this, these are great.
I didn't get one.
This has gone to every residence in each of the neighborhoods.
Oh,
It may not have gone to Lindenwood yet. Has it gone to Lindenwood?
Hey,
You haven't gone to Jim because it hasn't gone to Lindenwood.
Rick, I missed last month's meeting. How did the meeting on the 22nd go? Was it Sunday afternoon, the 22nd?
You mean at Lindenwood?
Yeah.
Oh.
I never heard the
Is
feedback
the block
on
party?
that.
The
Yeah.
block party.
Oh, it was good. Clive was there, I was there the whole time. Clive was there for an hour and Rose was there for an hour. And, yeah, I mean, people
They
were,
worked pretty well.
I mean, you were busy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was busy the whole time. I think, I don't know the experience that Rose had, but I know people would come up to me and, you know, they would talk about the library as if they knew all about it. And they said, oh yeah, it's just past the Arriaga Gymnasium, right? I said, well, no, that's in the middle of, there's a library in Atherton. And other people, you know, would talk about the post office. We have a post office? Yeah, I didn't know that. So, I mean, it was really entertaining to talk to people.
It would have been disheartened. But, okay.
So did they think the library in Menlo Park was too big?
Yeah.
Just the police.
So the typical agenda we would do at these outreach meetings is we do some kind of introduction so that those who may not have been at the public meeting, we can kind of ground them in what we're doing, let them know what happened at the public meeting and some of the comments that we heard from people who did attend, so that we can set the context. So, you know, that'll take a few minutes or so. Then we would focus our time on going through the options that we're about to go through with you. We're thinking, so this is a question, I think. It seemed like it's difficult and wouldn't make a lot of sense to try and do some kind of projection. So we were thinking of bringing boards and having them on easels or, you know, some such kind of arrangement. We will have someone there to graphically record, and if some of you remember when we interviewed, we had that portable stand that could, you know, unfold and give a big, you know, area for someone to be graphically recording on, so we would be bringing that. And we would plan to walk the group that shows up through each of the 3 options that we've developed, give them the highlights, explain the differences, and just kind of depending on how big the group is or how interactive they want to be, we can be prepared to be around a table and bring trace and markers and things like that to be able to mark things up. We can do a variety of things. We don't know what each of the homes are going to be like. We don't know how many people will show up, and we'd like it to be interactive. So we'll certainly be, you know, asking for input and comments on each of the options. And, you know, we can be prepared to divide people up in teams if there are many people, work around a table if there are a few. keep them seated and, you know, work back and forth off of the board, you know, so we can adapt. And so I don't know if there's a way you can help us understand what the spaces might be like that we'll be presenting in, because that might help us with making sure we bring enough materials for all eventualities.
So just a point of information, we did ask that people not RSVP, but respond to the city clerk to
Oh,
let
good.
us know for planning purposes
Great.
which meeting you're going to attend. So I don't think we've had anybody respond yet. Just a few, okay, all right. So Teresa's gonna try to keep
Okay.
a list. And would it be helpful if I went to each home and kind of took some interior, like a.
That would be incredibly helpful if
would
you were
that-
willing.
A photograph?
Yeah, because then we can think about how we're setting up the room in advance, and we can do it more quickly and easily. And if we see something that we think would be helpful, you know, to see if we can move it aside or out of the way, we can make those suggestions.
Okay.
That'd be fantastic.
Well, before I just jump in and volunteer for this, I'm gonna give the committee an opportunity to say if anyone would like to help me with this, volunteer, or Steve, yeah, Steve.
So he gave me a red pen.
Oh, they gave you a red pen. You got
maybe like
He's
your
writing for
time.
you.
Oh.
I've got a bigger one.
There's some mystery, oh.
We could give you several colors.
Kenny Rodriguez, I'm just the biggest pen he can find.
Oh, my gosh, okay. Well, yeah, well, okay, so
I'll help you out with that.
Paul, thank you very much. Okay, and then we already have, maybe what I'll do is we could ask individual residents if they could just take a picture on their phone and send it to
Yeah.
us. That way, we wouldn't have to go do that. Let me, shall we try
Just
that
send a
first?
note.
Try that first, yeah.
Shall I? I'll try that first.
That'd be great. And
Okay.
then, I guess Teresa, as you do get RSVPs, and you think like the day before each of the scheduled dates, just let us know, how many you think, that'll help us. Okay, for this day, we should plan to divide people into smaller groups. Or, for this day, we should bring extra copies of something. Or, I think that would be fine. That would work well. Okay.
Can I
The
ask a
big
question?
question is gonna be though, Cheryl, is if, I don't know how many people we think are gonna attend these things, but if 30 or 40 people attend,